Halloween.
Forever.
Steve, my boy, how are you?
I'm good, Brian. I am good. It's November.
How are you on this if you're listening to this the day it releases, this pre-election day? I'm going to go as far as say this is our pre-election day special.
Yeah, because we've got all the presidents or something. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's what election day is. Steven, got one for you. You got a bunch of hipster vegetarian zombies. They walk into a bar, right? What do they order?
What do a bunch of hipster corn ribs? Because they're ribs.
No. Any final guesses? I think you could get this one, honestly.
I don't know. I'm sure I've heard this one before. You may have even told it before. But
I might have.
I'm just stuck on corn ribs.
Yeah, no, it's not corn ribs. They order grains.
Oh, yes, grains. Yes, indeed.
Welcome, boys and ghouls, to a motherfucking Showdown episode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
That was a reference to your movie, Steve, because, of course, a bunch of zombies come into a hipster bar and start munching on people. So that's why I felt that one to be appropriate.
There's zombies in another movie, too, but like my movie just has everything. It literally has everything. So yeah. It's one of you've heard that old adage, like when you're trying to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to no one. You ever heard that adage? Nope. Not familiar with it. It definitely doesn't apply today. So
doesn't apply? All right, we'll move on. We'll move on then.
Doesn't apply, so fuck off.
Guys, we are here in the beautiful month of November to talk about our Showdown topic for this lovely month, which is micro budget gems, guys. We'll get into that in a hot second, but you might be surprised to hear me say, hey, it's a lovely month in November. A lot of people get butthurt once November comes around, right? Because they're all Halloween's over, like now we got to wait a whole nother year to care about spooky stuff. First of all, wrong. We are on that spooky we're on that spooky shit year round, and also I've made this argument before. I'll make it again. I'll continue to say it every year. Christmas is just as, if not spookier, than Halloween. Christmas, spooky as fuck. Love a Christmas horror movie. There's some ghost stories about. It's fucking cold. It's sketchy. It's not as pretty. Like I think the holiday season every bit as spooky as Halloween. So I'm getting psyched up for some holiday horror here, which we will start to dabble into in the month of November, and then of course go hard on once we get into the month of December, of course. But before we get into all that shit, we got some micro budget gems to talk about. Before we get into the micro budget gems, we got some beers potentially to talk about, or some bevies. Steve, I know we're recording this a little earlier. We're early in the afternoon here on a Sunday, day before this goes out. Steve, are you sipping on a bevy? What's your situation?
I picked up a bevy.
Yeah,
it's a nicer bevy, I guess.
Yeah.
And I haven't had it. It's gas.
Yeah,
I picked up the gas.
Sure you did.
Yep. So
Sunday afternoon, nice Sunday afternoon. Might as well just send it.
Yeah, I'm going to fucking send it. I'm going to make some chorizo sloppy joes later. So I'm saying,
hell yeah.
I'm saying, fuck it. Let's get going early in the afternoon. And then I'm even this out with the sloppy joes after this. We're done. It's a good day. But I haven't drank this brewery in a long, long time. But it's a brewery that you used to work at. And
okay.
I stopped drinking there because they had a couple, 2-3 things that went down that people were not happy about.
They were not happy about. And you know what? I lived that, and I wasn't happy about it either.
Right.
That was not fun. And I know which brewery you're talking about, and I know which things you're talking about.
Yeah. But I feel like I haven't heard them in the news for a while. And I think they also did get completely bought out with brand new management. So
they turned that thing over pretty much.
Yeah. So I can't even consider it the same company anymore. So I was willing to go back and give this one a try because I did love this beer, but I couldn't support the brewery at the time. But
sure.
I think this is even like a brand new edition for this year, possibly, but it is the Founders KBS.
Yeah.
And they have a spicy chocolate edition.
Oh, you know what? That was, this might be the first time they've like bottled it for mass distribution, but that was once upon a time a taproom only release, and it is fucking delicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's 12%.
Or at least it was 8 years ago or whatever when I drank it there. But
yeah, it's 12% barrel aged KBS, and it's got the spices in it. It's got the chocolaties in it. I mean, it tastes great. And it'll get me going. So that's all I need. Just gas.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm more of a moderate ABV drinking guy in quantity, and if I'm going big, I'm usually going Belgians and stuff like that, not big chewy stouts. Or if I am going big chewy stouts, I'm going something a little more bitter, a little classic Russian Imperial, a little hoppy or something like that. But man, I do fuck with some KBS. It is a good beer. It is always consistently a good beer. Not every one of the variants is great. Some of them get a little sweet. They did like a Mackinac fudge version that I thought was a little too sweet for my liking. But man, like the espresso version, holy shit. I got some bottles still of old school, unbarrel aged Imperial Stout still when they did a limited release of that. I still got some like employee only beers that they did for the holidays back in the day. Yeah, we got to get into this sometime because I'm not going to drink them all myself. Yeah, you know what? They always make great beer. They just had some little racism problems once upon a time. But I think
racisms.
They did a couple two-tree racisms over there. But yeah, I don't work there anymore, so I don't mind saying like I think pretty much most of the people who were allegedly the problem there, which were obviously people that were high above my pay grade anyway. I think are long gone. So you know what? Whatever. They make good beer. But a brewery that I kind of had written off once upon a time just because I had their beer really, really early after they released it. And then in recent years, hadn't really given them much of a shot. And then I had a couple of their beers last night and I thought, dang, they're pretty damn good. Was that Old Thunder? I know people were pretty high on them.
Yeah.
But I just haven't revisited them because early on I wasn't impressed and I never really gave them a second try. And I was at a friend's 40th birthday party last night. They had it at a bar, and I had a few of their Pilsners. I had a couple of their Helles. They were tasty.
Yeah.
They weren't the greatest thing I ever had in my whole life, but they were tasty. So I got after a couple two or three of them. But today, because I fully anticipate, not unlike you, I got some cooking plans for this evening. I got a big old slab of salmon that I'm going to roast up. I'm going to make a nice little like Greek yogurt lemon dill sauce for it. I'm looking forward to some salmon this evening, and I'm probably going to have a couple 2-3 beers with that. And then I got to get up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, and I am not looking forward to it. So, and there's no way I'm going to be able to go to sleep at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to probably drink a few 2-3 beers before bed, just to, self-medicate and fall asleep. So I'm not drinking on any beers right now, but I'm just getting after a whole mess of coffee because I slept like a motherfucker last night. And those time where you need a lot of sleep and then you sleep a long time and then you're just tired all day long. Despite the fact that you should have caught up on your sleep, you like overslept.
Yeah.
Which I very rarely do. But with the hour, falling back last night, us getting an extra hour sleep, my kids were staying over at their grandparents' house. I just I was in bed by like 11 and or before midnight and didn't wake up till like 8:30 plus an hour. So I slept like 9-10 hours last night and I'm just fucking beat. So I'm chugging on some coffee. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, before we get into kind of talking about what these movies are, because despite the topic, when you think micro budget, you think maybe, there might be some quality diminished here. We actually got, despite me ripping on Steve's movie already too, we have 3 fun movies here. So I'm excited to talk about all 3 of these, but we do got to talk about the interwebs real quick. If you want to follow us on the interwebs, if you want to get that spicy, yummy, sweet content every week on the interwebs, follow us at Instagram at Halloween is Forever. If you go over to the Twitter /X or Hallow Forever, we're on Facebook. We're on all the social medias. If you want to shoot us an email, go over to halloweenisforeverpod@gmail.com. Reach out to us. We are getting in, like I said, to the holiday season. I love to watch. I love this. Not only is a million new horror movies coming out every single day, but a lot of Christmas horror, especially every single year. I think last year we counted there were like 30 fucking new Christmas horror movies last year, or maybe Christmas and Thanksgiving combined. A lot of them, I will admit, are dog shit. So if you find a good one, new or maybe an underrepresented gem out there that you want to throw away, slide in the old DMs. Send them over to us, because I'm looking for some good shit to get into here in about a week or so. I think that's where my entrance is gonna be. I'm not jumping. I'm not a psychopath. I'm not jumping into Christmas horror movies the day after Halloween or something like that. But I am gonna get after it pretty damn quick. So send us some suggestions. Have you seen anything, Steve? Holiday horror wise that you're like, ooh, looking to get after that one?
I haven't seen anything really get advertised this year, because like you're saying, like a whole shitload got released last year. I haven't seen anything this year that I'm like, oh yeah, this looks fun. This looks there's no I don't know, time travel fucking 3 ghosts type thing going on. I ain't seen that. I would like to see that kind of movie though, where they redo the Christmas Carol, but it's like 3 ghosts, and then 3 ghosts just actually like rampage.
Didn't they do that on oh boy, I'm trying to remember. I might be misremembering, but didn't they do kind of a version of that on the Creep Show TV? They did like a Creep Show Christmas special. Wasn't it kind of something like that?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it if they did.
I don't remember. I might be imagining that. Anyway, I guess if you Terrifier 3, obviously being a Christmas horror movie, might have taken some of the thunder of some of the other Christmas horror movies early in the season.
Possibly. People just didn't want to even compete with it to release their own. I don't know.
And then obviously there's a lot of buzz around the Nosferatu coming out right at the beginning of the Halloween. Not the beginning, but early part of the holiday season. So,
well, I think it comes out right on Christmas.
Oh, I thought it was like December 8th or 7th or something like that. Am I imagining that?
No, I think the other thing I'm seeing is like there's Christmas action movies this year, because they got that stupid Rock and Chris Evans movie coming out.
Barf.
Yeah, it looks like fucking dog shit.
Yeah, I ain't doing that. I'll go watch some fucking Charles Bronson like I always do if I need some action in my life. I've been on a little bit of a Charles Bronson kick here as of late. Watched a couple 2-3 Charles Bronson movies. Watched a shitload of movies in general this week. Obviously, we just came off Halloween this past week, and then into this weekend we got the Showdown. So I feel like I've watched like 2-3 movies a day for the last week.
Yeah, I'm all full up on movies, because I did all 31 days and then did these 3 movies, and then I'm like still trying to sneak in stuff that I wanted to watch that like my personal viewings.
Well, let's do this real quick, not to put you on the spot, but now that we're into November, obviously if you are a Patreon subscriber over at patreon.com/HalloweensForever, not only could you be here in the Discord with us, as we've got some of our friends currently with us in this lovely Sunday afternoon, hanging out with us as we record live and chilling in the chat here. But you also get, I'll talk about that Patreon exclusive podcast in a moment, but you get a bunch of other fun stuff. Steve does a lot of write-ups and stuff like that. He just came off of his 31 days of horror for the month of October. Maybe as a little teaser, Steve, what were the standouts if you got 2 or 3 like standout movies that you were like, damn, that I'm glad I threw that on the old 30 in the old list of 31.
Yeah. So I wound up writing like 19,000 words for all, like if you put all the write-ups together.
Yeah.
And it just completely, I could have just written a whole new script. Like I could have just written a new screenplay. when you put it together like that and you go 19,000 words, that's literally just an 80-minute movie. I could have made written my own.
Yeah, it was a big undertaking. As I started, I was reading the first like week, and then I got behind, and then I still have to catch up. But I was like, damn, this is going to be an undertaking.
Yeah, but
it's not just like a look at the movie I watched.
One of the standouts though is Frankie Frico. And I wanted to bring that one up because I couldn't stop thinking about it watching the video Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Frankie Frico is so good at mimicking that 80s, 90s, just like dog shit writing.
Yeah.
It's so amazingly good at doing it. For a film that was made this year. I couldn't stop thinking about Frankie
or the actual dialogue.
Both. All of it. It's all of it. It's all of it. Like it's so good at mimicking. Like we talked about Psycho Goreman having kind of that 90s nostalgia a little bit, how some things looked like the Power Rangers. Mm-hmm. Frankie Frico is just like steeped in it all. It just
nice.
It goes full bore, and it's just like I can't believe they're so good at writing something that is so bad.
Yeah. That's a very specific skill.
Right.
You know what I mean? To mimic the style. Exactly. And I obviously, we've talked about, we have a shared love for these types of movies. So I absolutely know what you're talking about. Is it I know Meg kind of didn't want to spoil it. She was talking about after she watched it, and I still haven't watched it, but is it a little bit of is it horror? Is it sci-fi? Is it both? Like, I know it looked like it had some of this kind of like gross out comedy elements of it. Like or you know what? If I need to go in blind, tell me to shut up, but I'm just curious. I haven't got around to watching it yet.
Nah, it's okay if you know about it, because it's more like the horror is a little downplayed, but there's still kind of that over the top Kostansky violence at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's the one standout. That's the one thing that sticks out away from the classic filmmaking. It was like if you watched The Munchies, which I think might be the closest film to this.
Really?
Is The Munchies?
If you could have said it's 1% Munchies, and I'm on board because I'm a big Munchies guy.
Yeah, I know. It's like 85% Munchies.
Oh my God, I'm watching it tonight now. I have to be up at 4 a.m. tomorrow. I'm watching it tonight. I don't care.
But yeah, it's one of those films where you can just kind of watch it and like you'll see all the stuff that they're drawing influence from, but there's no film that was made in the 80s and 90s that is made as well as this one, if that makes sense. Like everything is just too good. Like the puppets are fucking amazing, and no film back then had puppets like these. So
yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously, we talked about, I got just watching the trailer, big Garbage Pail Kids, the movie vibes. And those puppets were they weren't puppets, right? They were people
like costumes
with like paper mache heads on, basically.
Yeah.
But they looked horrible,
Right.
So.
But so like the puppets are probably like Gremlins 2 level, where like the puppets were really, really good in Gremlins 2, but also like Gremlins 2 is just like a big budget, standout film. Where
it's
like,
$40 million fucking movie.
Yeah. Whereas like everything else in Frankie Frico is fucking dumb and stupid and lazy and poorly made on purpose.
Yeah.
So it's not Gremlins 2.
Right. I'm excited to watch this.
So it's one of those things, you'll watch it, you'll watch it, you'll love it, you'll get it. It's just like it's aping a thing that didn't actually exist.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch it. Obviously I was on my Halloween shit for most of last week, watching my Halloweens, watching my Draculars, watching my. I actually on Halloween night I did watch Halloween 3. And then I watched all of American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Because I was watching outside. It was warm. I was out under the gazebo, had all my spooky decorations, had my jack-o'-lanterns glowing and all that, just having a night. Everybody was in bed. I was just having a spooky little night, drinking some beers by myself. But then it started to like be very blustery and windy. And I felt like I was on the fucking moors. Like I'm out there under the gazebo, just like getting wet. Like I'm like, Jesus Christ. But then it stopped raining. Well, it was raining, but it stopped blowing for a little bit. I popped on Halloween 3, and then about halfway through it started getting nasty again. And I was just like, all right, I got to go inside. I'm getting my TV getting wet out here.
I'm getting worked. I was going to ask, like, if you're watching American Werewolf, outside, are you throwing on the fog machine? Are you throwing it up for yourself?
I should have. Damn, that was a mistake. It was too windy anyway.
Yeah.
For those of us who frequent a fog machine, I don't go anywhere without a fog machine. And if it's windy, it's just you're wasting fog juice at that point, right?
Sure, yeah.
It's going out, it's blowing out on the road, and come on, we don't need that. But then, last couple nights, obviously, I was watching the movies. Some micro budget movies and some movies I was potentially going to pick. I had a bit of a challenge with this, picking something for this. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to pick. Ultimately, very happy with the movie I picked, but I had about a list of about 8 or 10 movies I had to kind of drill down. I get the feeling you were in the same boat because you were waiting until the last minute to give me a movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we had our patrons give us a movie. And the patron who picked the patron's movie this month, James, he's in the Discord with us right now. So we might actually go to him to ask us for like order and things. But he wound up, he suggested The Video Dead. And so like I kind of knew that one was a strong possibility. And I'm actually surprised it came from the patrons and not you. But, they threw The Video Dead.
It was on my list. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't on my list.
Yeah. And then I had to go run errands. And like while I was running errands, you sent me your pick for The Habit. And I was like, I need time. Hold up. I need to get back to a computer. And I was with this new format. I'm still trying to game the system. I'm still trying to figure out how to win. And I could have been cheap. I could have been a slime ball and picked Creep with Mark Duplass.
Great movie. I was on my list too.
Because, hey, if it goes to a social media vote, nobody knows Habit. Some people know The Video Dead, but everybody knows Creep, and I would just win. But I don't want to win that way, Brian. And so I did some extra research, and I found a movie that's so fucking insane that there's a possibility that you just might pick it.
Yeah, it's interesting. This new mentality or this new format. Yeah, we got to figure it out. There's a couple different strategies that you can go with. Video Dead is a recognizable movie. I went out on a limb, picked a movie that people don't know, but that I feel like is a genuinely very good movie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like The Video Dead, I have a lot of love for. But it's not a good movie, right?
Not particularly.
It's a bad movie with bad acting, but it's still, I have a lot of love for it. It's a fun movie. Same thing with your movie, right? It was fun. Perhaps sensory overload would be a good way to describe it. It's not a good movie, though. It's impressive commitment to insane amounts of practical effects, squibs, like the squib budget. I don't know how this is micro budget just based on squibs.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like they spent $500,000 on squibs,
which is why I picked it. It seems impossible, but everything I found is the budget ranges between 150,000 US or 200,000 in Deutschmarks. Yeah. So whatever the exchange rate is, I still think it's it goes lesser. So for US.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. It's interesting. I was trying to think of an analogy before this, and I think I've just come up with one on the spot. Perhaps it's like I like to think about our picks for the showdowns as like wing flavors, Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Like, is it a safe flavor? Is it just a showy flavor? Like your pick, let's say Video Dead. Video Dead is like, it's like a let's say it's a barbecue wing, right? It's a good flavor. People like it. Is it a showstopper? Maybe not, right? But it's fun. It's tasty. You're gonna be pleased with it. You're gonna have a good time. Yours is like the atomic fuck your face wings, where it's like it's actually not good or enjoyable. It's just extreme. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
It's just an experience.
Pretty enjoyable.
It's just an experience. Yeah, your endorphins are going to get going. You're going to have an experience, but it's a different type of experience. Yeah, you're going to get a little high, a little.
If you are not ready to run through a fucking wall by the end of this movie, like you're dead inside, and that's the point of my film. My film isn't, and I would say your film probably falls into, the wing flavor of garlic parmesan with truffle oil.
I'm not truffle oil. I see where you're getting at. How dare you?
You are. No, I'm not. My man, you picked a film school film.
It is a film school film. I was going to say
it was made in film school, but it's a film they show in film school to trick film students into thinking they can make that movie. Yeah. Yeah, it's a movie that makes you want to make a movie. That is accurate, right? Yeah.
It is what's the band? It's what's Lou Reed's old band? The Velvet it's the Velvet Underground of horror movies. Yeah. No one actually has seen it, but every single person who saw it went out and made a movie. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually going to say garlic parmesan perhaps. Or I was going to say it's like a jerk. It's a jerk seasoning wing, like a Jamaican jerk, which is good, but it's a vibe, right?
Right. Yeah. I fully agree though about mine. Although I would put it more like, have you ever had Big Shot Bob's?
Oh yes.
Okay, so for the listeners, one right in Elwood. Yeah, for the listeners, we have a wing place out here called Big Shot Bob's, and they have about 151 different flavors, and some of those flavors are literally just 3 or 4 flavors thrown in. And then they also
most of them, in fact, I think are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they have one that's just called all wet, which is just all of the wet flavors all thrown in together. So I'm willing to agree that my film falls somewhere in between, the Cool Runnings or just an all wet. I'm willing to say it falls into that because it's everything. There's everything in my film. Everything that is in the Video Dead is in my film. Everything that's in your film is in my film. So
everything that's in a film is in your film, I think. Yeah. It's literally just like put it in the blender, chug it, and then have diarrhea all over the wall.
And scream while you do it, and it's awesome.
And scream and fire shots into just the chests of corpses. Yep. All right. Before we get into the individual movie here, and like I said, like you said, James is hopefully willing to help us determine the order here that we're going to talk about these movies. We haven't actually mentioned the titles of them yet, so maybe let's do that. We'll give James a second, and we'll do the Patreon exclusive podcast pitch here. But Steve, you picked. Is it Premutos?
Premutos.
Premutos.
Yeah. Premutos. I've been calling it Premutos. I don't know why. I just like saying Premutos.
Premutos sounds like some sort of bit of terminology from the Ninja Turtles universe. Premutos, The Fallen Angel from 1997. Not a title that characterizes the movie. The movie should be called The Screaming Dead. That's what because it's Evil Dead mixed with Dead Alive, mixed with like all these splatter movies that have dead in the name. But they're always screaming. So it's the German Screaming Dead. So that was Steve's pick. I picked or we'll go down the line here. So the Patreon, actually James's suggestion was picked to represent our Patreon listeners. He picked 1987's The Video Dead, and then I picked our boy Larry Fesseden's starring and directed by, and I think he wrote it too, I forget. 1995's Habit. So 3 wildly different movies, for Christ's sake. All right. One more thing before we actually get into talking about these movies, guys. If you do decide to join us over on the Patreon, give us 5 paper monies a month. We will give you access to not only our last Patreon exclusive podcast series, which was called Families Forever, wherein Steve made me watch all the fucking Fast and the Furious movies, and it sucked. But talking about them was fun. We now I get my revenge. I'm making Steve watch all weird right-wing Christian evangelical propaganda horror movies. And this month, if you've been following along, I think I've told you what movie it already is, but for those of you who haven't, you got to go back and listen, or you just gotta trust me here. It is a uncomfortable movie, and the thing you go to hell for in this particular month's episode, it's not saying that someone's cooking is better than your grandma's. It's not mouthing off to your parents. It's something that rhymes with perschmortion. And that's what the entire episode is about. That's what the entire movie's about. It's terribly acted for the most part, and we had a lot of fun talking about it. It is called The Life Zone from 2011. It fucking sucks. All right. We've got James's order in here, and he has elected to put, interestingly enough, me, your boy, first. Then we're going to talk about his pick, which is Video Dead. And then we're going to do Steve last. So
that sounds like the order of, hey, least boring to most fun. So yeah. Most boring to most fun.
Shut up.
Fucked it up on my own.
She fucked it up so bad. All right. Yeah. So I'm going to let's talk first about Habit from 1995. Like we said, I'm a fan, okay, of one Mr. Larry Fessenden. Not only his directing, his producing, but I'm a big fan of just all his performances. I will pretty much watch anything that has Larry Fessenden in it. I know he's a genre darling. I know a lot of people love his stuff. I had never seen this movie, and shame on me for having never seen this movie. But as a Larry Fessenden fan, to not have seen his, probably most celebrated directorial project is kind of silly. But I had never saw it. I thought I'd saw it. I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize this was a low budget movie. I'm not trying to sit here and think about what it's about. And then finally, I popped it on, started watching. I was like, dang, I don't think I've ever seen this. But I'm very happy that I finally sat down and watched it, because this movie's fucking so good. And I get it. Yes, I'm reading some reviews about it, and I can feel, Steve, what you're talking about, that it is I will say, reeks of mid-90s like movie nerddom. You know what I mean? I can absolutely see like some of the friends of mine who were art majors in college just being like insufferably preachy about this movie. I can absolutely see that. But it is really fucking good. It is alarming that the performances they get, not all of them are great. And we'll talk, I'm sure, specifically about a couple that are hard to swallow at times. But like I said, this movie was made for I find most reliably, it looks like about $200,000, perhaps even less.
Yeah, that seems about right to me.
Yeah,
because I think as with most films filmed in New York City, you're going to do a lot of guerrilla shooting and a lot of they talk about you see it on Twitter a lot, and it's like they could never make this film in today, and it's like this film is literally one of those ones I don't think you can make today, because you would just be getting arrested every day of shooting by the cops for not having a permit.
Yeah. And for those of you who are familiar with Larry and his work, there's no way in hell he was getting permits for any of this shit. Yeah. He was wilding out. He was just showing up, shooting shit and running away. I don't think that I had seen a young Larry Fessenden, like this much screen time for a young Larry Fessenden. Because like I said, he directs it, he writes it. I believe he edited it as well. And he stars in it as the main character, Sam. Young Larry Fessenden looks exactly like now Larry. It looks like a 20. I don't know how old he was when this movie came out. I'm going to say he was in his early to mid. He's probably his mid 20s.
I think he was like 32 actually, because I looked it up.
Oh, was he really?
I looked it up just to find out like how old was he when he was making this, and he was like in his 30s. It's also worth noting that this film is a remake of a short he made in the 80s. So in the 80s, he was 20 when he made the short of this originally, but then remaking this, he just kept himself in the same role.
Sure. Yeah. He if you're familiar with what Larry looks like, now he's got a very unique look. He's got like, usually his hair is really wacky. He's missing a front tooth. You know what I mean? He's a very physically recognizable guy. He, in this movie, if you're not familiar with what he looks like as a young man, he looks like a younger man dressed up as Larry Fessenden for Halloween, basically. Which is just so charming to me. But it's very of its time. And I will start off by saying the first like kind of vibes I got on this movie were, it felt so much like if you took a 70s film like a Frank Henenlotter 70s film, like A Basket Case or a Cue the Winged Serpent or something like that. Yep. And then it was that vibe, but made in the mid 90s. It just gave me that same like grimy, grungy side of living in New York, and just feels very much of his time. It's like a time capsule to New York in 1995, being a, moderately young person in the city, which was really cool for me. And that's part of the reason I love, all those Frank Henenlotter films. And this gave me like a unique flavor of that, which I loved. My AKA for this movie is Habit 1995, AK So I'm Banging a Dracula. This movie has, like you said, I actually looked up, the origins and where the story came from, and he had obviously written it in the 80s as a short, and it gives you a lot of Vampire's Kiss as well.
Yep.
But a different, it's its own thing very much, right? It's a little bit less around just somebody absolutely losing their mind, like mental illness type. And it's also a little bit more, it's got some comedic elements, but it's less comedic. It's much more subdued. It's not got big, giant performances in the way that Vampire's Kiss does. Obviously, Nick Cage is going to Nick Cage. And I love that movie too, but it has similar themes, I'll say. It's a lot more art housey, kind of like you said. Most likely, the only main character that you are going to recognize is probably Larry Fessenden. Meredith Snader, who plays Anna, who is the titular girlfriend Dracula, was literally has 2 credits, and it's this and the original short. So she was never in anything else, which is surprising and not surprising, because she's not a fantastic performer, but her kind of slightly stilted performance, I think, actually plays to the weirdness of her character. And we'll get into it, but spoiler alert, like, does she exist? Does she not exist? Kind of thing. And then also, but she is. Oh,
if you go on the trivia of the original short, it says that she actually wasn't in the short. It's just a miscredit that they have not fixed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She wasn't in the original short.
So she literally has 1 credit, which is this movie. Yeah. Yes. I didn't watch the short. I just saw that it was based on a short. So, and then a couple other people that are big characters here. Nick, his kind of best friends, Nick and Ray. They're a couple played by Aaron Beale and Patricia Coleman. Again, not much else in the way of an acting career. You've also got his on again, off again love interest, Liza, played by Heather Woodbury. His like fucked up friend from work kind of thing. Lenny, played by Jesse Hartman, who's not in it a ton. And like I said, these are all folks that are probably going to be entirely anonymous type performances to you, as they certainly were to me.
Yeah. I think the biggest name that's not Larry Fessenden is Michael Buscemi.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he might only appear in the party scene.
I think he is. I think he's just in that one scene, or maybe that then they go back to the party. He might be there too, but yeah, that's like it.
Yeah. Yeah. He like barely appears in the film, but like you only recognize him because he's Steve Buscemi's brother. Like you won't even recognize him in the film, but you'll recognize his name, and he's been in other stuff. But yeah, he's like the next biggest actor, and then he's just barely in stuff anyways.
Yeah, and I think he had like 3 words, if I recall, in this movie too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the flick a little bit. I won't. I'm not going to drain every every scene here, because there's a lot going on, a lot of subtext, a lot of like I said, film schooly type of thing, but alarmingly well executed, in my opinion. And I'll just kind of call it out here, because we'll talk about these themes as we go forth. There is a lot of classic vampire tropes, but also themes, right? And really specifically around Dracula, right? And Nosferatu, and like the kind of semi-modern take on like not Nosferatu in the sense of like the looks. It's more Dracula, right? It's more romantic, hypnotic, love interest type of vampire. But you do get this early image of like a fairy. I don't know if it's like the Staten Island Fair or whatever. I don't know if it's a famous fair, but it appears to be, some sort of New York City ferry boat, which I got to assume it's not explicit, but it's mentioned. It's at the beginning. It's at the end. They talk about how Anna, who is the potential vampire, she. And I don't say potential in the sense that she may or may not be a vampire. It's that she may or may not exist, I guess, ultimately.
Right, yeah.
But she definitely a vampire in the context of the character. She lives on this boat, potentially, or a boat. So it's a lot of allusions to the Demeter and the voyage that Dracula takes to the New World. And Larry, and then something you see a lot in vampire movies, but also a lot in werewolf movies and anything where there's a transformation type of thing involved. A lot of subtext around depression, mental illness, and substance abuse. So no surprises there. So Larry plays Sam, and Sam parties. I mean, I think that's probably the quickest way to say it. Sam likes to party. Sam, you get the idea, is kind of a smart guy, underachiever, comes from some money, not like wildly wealthy, but he's kind of a slacker that works at a cafe and bar part-time, but then also, like they mention at some point, he's, his parents have money and his mom passed away, so he inherited some money, and that's probably floating him to a certain extent. Lives in a shit apartment, but lives by himself. So the types of things that like are a little bit difficult even in the 90s for a young person to do in New York City with the level of income he seemingly has. So a little bit of a silver spoon kid, but like genuine and definitely artistically inclined, and his family or his friend group are very artistically inclined. Nick, we mentioned, is his kind of best friend, very theatrical, as is Ray, who's Nick's significant other. She's very kind of theatrical, which we learn later. Sam also had a relationship with, but we don't know that initially. And then, but we do know Liza is his kind of currently going through a breakup or a trial separation type of thing, with Liza, who is a painter as well. So this is the kind of circles he runs in. he goes to this Halloween party, and you start to get an idea of kind of how Sam operates, which is to just like drink himself into a stupor, basically. And you get the idea his friends are a little worried about him. It's kind of getting a little bit worse. He hangs around with Lenny, who also tends to drink himself into a stupor at their place of employment. And his dad his mom had passed away at some earlier time, and his dad had just passed away in some sort of like accident. But he didn't have a super close relationship in recent years with his dad, so he's grieving. He's kind of dealing with it, all that stuff. He runs into this mysterious gal, which is Anna. And he's a drunken mess. They're kind of flirting or whatever at a party. We learn that she wasn't really invited to that party. And he ends up accidentally taking someone else's coat. And then, they're kind of out on the street hanging out. They're going to go somewhere. He's like, I got to go get my coat, give this coat back, comes back. She's gone. So now he's a little bit like, oh, missed opportunity here. It's the 90s. They didn't exchange, there's no Facebook. She didn't exchange, or he didn't think he had her phone number. Anyway, you do get a vibe very early that something's weird with her, because he walks out in the street, kind of loses track of her at some point, and you get this like Nosferatu finger, rolling grab on his shoulder. So you get right off the bat that he's got, at least he is like, whoa, that was a little vampire-y of you kind of thing. Yeah. And of course, as the audience, you see it too.
They like, this is all within the first, I'd say like 15, 20 minutes, but you already get the sense of like, it's what makes it a good film is all the production design that Larry has put into this. Is that, okay, we start off with that great boat shot where he's assumedly on another just smaller boat doing doing a guerrilla shoot of this Yankee ferry that was like it was a ferry between New Jersey and New York, and it's like now a historical piece. So now he's doing illegal shots, getting way too close to a boat that he doesn't own. Great.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit of a sketchy shot, but he clearly was in like, and he's too close where it was another commercial boat. He's clearly out there, on a little, tiny, engined, fishing boat or something that he rented off somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's doing illegal shit there. Then he's out on, we get a bunch of shots of the actual streets of New York, which is, that's a Frank Henenlotter special of just like, I'm going to capture people just being grimy and weird, and I'm not going to tell them they're in a movie. So
weird
he's doing
shops, weird, food booths, and people just being sketchy in like Midtown. Or no, they're in like the East Village or something at this point, right?
Right. Yeah, they may even be a little bit Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But yeah. Either way, he's out in these kind of arty but dingy, up and coming areas of New York. And, you're getting a whole production design there. But then this hand shot that you're talking about, that's like, oh, that's good filmmaking. That's, that's not just doing illegal fucking, shooting. He's doing good filmmaking, even though that boat shot is good filmmaking too, because it's a fucking boat pan around another boat. That's crazy. That's you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. But
right.
But then the hand shot is cool because the hand only exists in that one shot. Then he turns around to meet her face to face, and she's normal.
She's normal. Yeah. Because it's like a kind of like I said, like a monstrous dang old Dracula looking hand for a second.
Yep.
So they're great at planting seeds, and this movie is developing. I think it would not be inaccurate to characterize it as a slow burn for most folks, but it just keeps you tied in, and then obviously the characters and the relationships. You really start to care about these people. You're kind of, like I said, Anna's performance, even though it's not a great performance, it's a little stilted. Her weirdness compared to the you forget how good of an actor Larry Fessenden is. You know what I mean? But he reminds me, honestly, I couldn't get it out of my head. He's got a Michael Moriarty kind of weird charisma to him. You know what I mean? He's not as boisterous as Michael Moriarty. But but he's just got such a charisma to him. And you're right on the edge of like, is he going to say something weird, do some sort of like fucked up weird social faux pas, like as the character, you mean? And I don't know, you just feel for him right off the bat. The scene where he's doing the eulogy and he's having fucking flop sweats at his dad's wake is just like so fucking good. Because you're just like, is he going to pass out? Is he going to shit himself? Is he going to say something weird? And you just feel for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you like he's going through the DTs at that point, you know, because he needs a drink. He can't get through this. But for me, he has this quality of like, what if Jack Nicholson came up in like a harder neighborhood or something? Like he just, you know, because he's missing the tooth and his hair is all over the place. He's like somebody dragged Jack Nicholson out of the gutter, but like didn't give him time to rehab. You know, like they just put him in front of a camera.
Nicholson like ended up roommates with Charles Bukowski for like a semester in college.
Yeah.
And you just ended up being like a real degen for a lot longer than you should. Yeah.
So it's like they just dragged him out of the gutter and put him right in front of the camera rather than giving him time to like, you know, straighten out. He just so like
he's too skinny. He's like his hair's always all fucked up, and of course he's got that like trademark missing front tooth.
Which is an actual missing front tooth. It's not like a blacked out tooth, because there's just some shots where like it's in there and you're just kind of like, it's kind of, ooh, that's a little rough to look at, but it's real. So like that's how
he still has it to this day. Like he never got it fit. Like, you know, obviously he's a successful, you know, like filmmaker and like industry, you know, he's been working in the industry forever. It's, you know, and it's just a decision. He's like, nah, man, I'm going to keep this tooth. I wonder, which I've never looked into, because Anna at one point asks him about the tooth that she mentions, like the missing tooth. She thinks it's cute or whatever. And he says like, hey, I got mugged and somebody like kicked my front tooth out and I just never got it fixed. And that just feels like it could be very much a true story from Larry's life.
Sure.
But I never looked into it. I don't know if that information's out there on the internet, but it just felt very genuine.
I'm sure he's talked about it in fucking interviews. Somebody's had to have asked him at some point.
I'm sure.
Somebody stupid had to have, you know, like really.
What happened to your tooth?
Why is that?
Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of awkwardness with Liza. Like they're kind of on again, off again. Like they're both kind of feeling out this separation thing. Anna keeps kind of disappearing on him. Not only this first night, but multiple times moving forward after they're like kind of established a relationship. She's very forceful. She's very deliberate. She's very mysterious. And she's kind of taken him along for a ride very much. And keeps leaving him in these vulnerable situations too. Like the first night they're out, he's hammered. You know, they have some pretty intense sex scenes in this movie. One of which is she's like jerking him off in Battery Park, you know, in the middle of he's hammered. And then he just like wakes up laying in his park with his pants half down. And I'm like, rough thing to do to somebody. But ultimately, again, you pick up pretty quick. It's like, is he doing this to himself? You know what I mean? Is she actually there? Is, you know, what's happening?
Yeah. But, I mean, as far as alcoholism allegories go, like, yeah, you're passing out in places you shouldn't. So,
right.
Yeah. I just looked it up. That is the real story. Like he got mugged and they kicked his teeth out. Yeah.
Yeah. That felt genuine.
Yeah.
So, you know, he works at this local bar. He goes there, like basically this is his day to day. He gets hammered ass drunk, stumbling drunk, passes out God knows where, makes his way home in the morning, sleeps it off for a little bit, goes into the bar, starts drinking again, and gets off late and keeps drinking. Like this is his life, right? He lives very much a nocturnal existence of like drinking, sleeping it off, going to work, drinking, sleeping it off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he's at his local bar. You know, you get introduced to Lenny, who's kind of they seem to, his friends, Lenny and later Nick, they're big enablers of each other. They all drink too much. They all, kind of pretend it's just like, hey, we're young and wacky and this is our lifestyle. And it's their mentality, right? Which I think some of us can equate to. Like, I was definitely a time in my life where like, this is how me and my friends acted a little bit. Now, we didn't pass out in parks. Well, we did in college. We definitely passed out in parks and things in college. But like, they're at that time in their life where they all appear to be in their late 20s, early 30s. And it's like, hey guys, it's kind of getting to be not cute anymore. You're about to either grow up or become Charles Bukowski. So they're at that precipice. A lot of people are kind of maturing. Hey, what are we going to do with the rest of our lives? And these guys are not necessarily.
Yeah. Even among like Sam's friend group and just the general vibes of the entire film is like, there's so much art happening around him. And so like you mentioned, like Nick is a theater kid, and even Lenny here does like music and does spots for doing music. And, Liza's a painter. And then even when he's walking with Anna that first night before she gives him the old J.O., they walk past just like an art installation of, this guy who's photographing like nude tableaus. So like there's constant art happening around him, but like he never does any art. And which this is why Sam is like the most affected by the alcoholism is, and not so much Nick. Like, Nick drinks too much. Nick should stop. But like Sam is worse than Nick. So obviously Sam should really stop, because Sam can't even, do anything beyond just like his cafe job. He, whatever art leanings he had, they don't exist in this film really. He doesn't complete anything. He doesn't do anything. He gets left by everybody.
He is all of them are barely functioning alcoholics, and then Sam is trending towards non-functional,
right. Exactly.
with the addition of his of his grief of his father passing. He mentions, and he speaks about depression in a artistic way. And for those of you who have, grew up with like, or went to college, high school, college, whatever, with like kind of artistic friends, that kind of melancholy that a lot of like artistic types have, that they tend to romanticize. Like, there's a difference between that and having like, chronic depression. Right. And it feels like the rest of them are having romantic melancholy depression, and Sam's like, fuck, I've got clinical depression, and things like, this is rough for me, but he still refers to it as like, oh, I've got the gloom or whatever, which is to say he's trying to write it off or play it off like just fun art student depression, but behind closed doors he's like, no, this is the rough kind of depression. This isn't the jokey fun, I'm gonna pretend I'm a tragic figure depression. This is I'm gonna wake up in the park depression. So Sam's got a little more of a serious situation than the rest of them, although Lenny seems to be trending in that direction. And Lenny is bragging about this girl that he met, that he's been banging around with, and she lives on a boat, and she's wacky, right? And they're banging on this boat all the time, and Lenny's kind of bragging about it, but Lenny's deteriorating too. And at first we think it's drinking, but then he's passing out, and then all of a sudden Lenny just stops coming to work, and nobody knows where Lenny is. And Lenny is within this friend group. So we've already seen someone who appears to be a cautionary tale. And of course, our ears are peaking up in regards to this woman that he's explaining. He then randomly, they're actually waiting for Lenny, him, Nick, Ray. They're waiting for Lenny, and he doesn't show up. And then he just runs into Anna, at this street festival. And then they immediately start smooching, and, they end up, being all flirty and stuff, and going and getting beers and all this stuff. So they end up going to this janky ass Ferris wheel. And this kind of serves as the point in the film where I think Sam kind of takes the leap into water that is too deep for him, kind of thing. So he goes on the Ferris wheel. He's talking about how he's scared of heights, and she kind of, pressures him into going on the Ferris wheel, and it becomes this very disorienting scene from Sam's perspective. And like I said, I think this serves as that illustration of like, hey, he's kind of taking it a little too far at this point. And they start some street drinking, and that's when we get to the scene where she ends up jerking him off out in Battery Park and leaving him in the park and all that stuff. So she's also making comments about like immortality, and then she eventually starts chewing on his lip, and they're having an aggressive makeout session. But she's like gnawing on his lip, and he's bleeding, and that seems to be something that she is interested in. So all of these vampire tropes are they're going heavy into him, right? She shows up after work. They end up going and getting a little bite. That was a vampire. That was not a vampire joke, but Sam's feeling lightheaded. He's starting to feel not normal. And they're starting to get to know each other a little bit more of these like philosophical conversations about like love and relationship and life and his kind of, morbid side and all that stuff. She needs invited in, so again, a lot of these tropes. She's very secretive about her job. She double takes at the garlic, which I thought was like, they're laying it on really, really thick.
Yeah.
They have another really aggressive sex scene where she's like licking his bloody lip, and they're raw dogging it in the apartment and like slithering across the floor. Like he's feeling very sexually, physically like sucked into her in a lot of ways. And like the way the sex scenes are very aggressive, and it almost feels like he's trying to escape. It like the way they kind of like I don't know how else to describe it. They're like inching across the floor like a double-backed caterpillar, and he's like seems to be trying to get away from her. Although he's into it, and he talks about it as being like so intense and all this stuff, but he seems to be trying to get away from her. We get a little bit of his background, talking about his like scars over his arms. He used to like cut himself, and how he lost his tooth, and he then thinks he sees his dad in a cemetery while they're walking, which I was kind of curious to what you thought about that. Is it just literally, obviously it's not his dad, his dad's dead, but is it just a very just surface level representation of his grief, or was it his dad trying to rein him in? That's one thing that I didn't really know where they were going with seeing the dad in the cemetery, to be honest. It's maybe I'm overthinking it, but
yeah, I took it as just like a thing, like it's not resolved in his life. Like that's the thing in his life that should be resolved and that he needs to think about. But he's spending all his time with this alcoholism. So yeah, his dad could represent kind of like a little, hey bud, over here. Like you're not, you're not dealing with things properly. And I'm here to show you like, hey, remember me? Like now, cause now he's just drinking. Like he's not even drinking to, fix the sadness. And it's something we see with another character. Yeah. But like, yeah, he's not even drinking to, because he's upset. He's just drinking because he's drinking now. Because now he's just
physiologically addicted. Yeah. To alcohol. So Anna's always gone when he wakes up. So like whatever's happening that like gets her out of his mind, like she kind of physically disappears in the mornings as well. He goes back and like Liza's trying to catch up with him, and she can see his health is in decline when they go out to breakfast at this one scene. He's just all goofed up, and he starts kind of confiding in people. Well, he confides firstly in Liza that he's seeing someone, which puts a bit of a separation between them. we talked about the scene already at his dad's wake where he's got like the flop sweats, but he keeps it together. And I think they do a great job of also illustrating the ups and downs, right? They don't just make it the booze has got me, or, I got rid of the booze. Like, there are ups and downs. There are times where you think he's going to come out of it. There's times where you think, no way, he's done. And at his and like the things that'll trigger it emotionally. So like he's at the wake, he gets through this speech that he was really nervous about. He gets through it, and he gets through it pretty gracefully. So you're like, good for you, Sam. Like, you're getting through this. But then he goes and starts talking to his dad's friend, and his dad's friend immediately starts talking about Liza and how much his dad loved Liza. And then that sends him in the other direction. So it's a seesaw. This hold that Anna, obviously, if you haven't figured it out by now, aka alcoholism and depression and grief and all these things, that are snowballing for him, have on his life.
Yeah, and just the way Anna makes the save in a way in that film or in that scene,
100% whisks him off.
Right. Yeah. Whisks him off because that guy's talking about like, oh, Liza, she was an archaeologist, but also she's a painter. She has so much going for her. Why aren't you with her? And he's like,
and then Captain Booze comes in the form of Anna and goes,
yeah,
we rule, bye. And then they go out and party.
We out.
Yeah.
Time to go find some dogs.
Yeah, let's go get chased by dogs. So we get this thing again, more lore around basically her protecting him, but also feeding on him, and of course that's what the alcoholism's doing. There's a scene where she protects him from like stray dogs in Central Park. There's this car accident that they see, and there's like a person who's like injured. There's a kid in the back. They end up rushing like an unconscious child to the hospital in this cab. And I was curious as to whether or not we felt like this is something that actually happened. I feel like it did actually happen in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now we're in this vein of like what is happening and what is just in Sam's brain. But also Sam is, there's a couple things that happen during the scene where Sam's like kind of resigning himself to death, where he's like, Anna says to him, this is it's the child we'll never have, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's that's such a weird,
dark. Yeah. It's such a weird line for like your girlfriend to say to you, like just out of nowhere.
Yeah. But then it's like, that's him saying it to himself, because he's like, he doesn't think he's getting out of this.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a lot more sad. And then they do this awkward banging in the supply room at the hospital. She like bites his arm as they fuck and drinks his blood. And like, I mean, on screen as the what we're viewing as the audience is, it's official. She's a Dracula, but also, I think obviously we're picking up on a lot of the subtext here, which is, it's really, it's taken hold of him, and he is just giving himself up to it at this point.
It's a great bit of framing that they do for this scene, is that they're in the background and going at it, and in the foreground there's a medical cart, and there's just a bunch of there's a bunch of random stuff on it, but really prominently is a bottle of isopropyl. And so what they're saying at this point is like, he ran this kid, like he took a cab and took this kid to the hospital so he could access the medical supply closet and just get in there and start drinking isopropyl, is how bad it's gotten him.
Yeah. He desperately needs some booze right now, or at the very least, he is becoming that opportunistic level of alcoholic, where it's like, whatever is going to just get this in my body. I need it desperately.
Yeah. He would love the hand sanitizer dispensers.
Yeah, he would. That would be big for him. That would be big for him. Post-COVID world here. He also this is a really, really great scene in a couple of different ways, is because he also gets weirded out by himself and bails.
Yeah.
And of course, in the scene, he's getting weirded out by Anna and the blood drinking. But in reality, of course, you know the subtext of this is that he just took it to a different level and he's scaring himself.
Right. He's reached a new low that most people, if you even think about that it sounds fucking crazy. Yeah. I'm going to go steal alcohol. I'm going to steal isopropyl from the hospital. You just thinking about that, you go, what? No.
Yeah, dude. That's rough. It's rough. It's getting dark, obviously, more dark. She has disappeared at this point because he quote unquote bails on her and they just goes outside and is like, I got to go sleep this off kind of thing. And she's acting kind of pissed and disappointed in him. And then he's having a conversation with her and she's not there. So they use the trope of telepathic communication in the vampire world with the host vampire really in a creative way here. And he's having conversations. We know he's having conversations with himself, but he's still, we don't know if this is some sort of coping mechanism or if it's just alcoholic psychosis that he's kind of going through, but he is convincing himself she is a vampire. And of course, no one else is, she doesn't exist to anyone else, most likely, but we don't know that necessarily at this point in the movie. We just maybe think that she may or may not, but we do know that he is making up this thing about being a vampire. Obviously, right? Because that just doesn't exist. And his brain is going in a place where now he can make that exist. They end up going to Ray's dead grandma's house for Thanksgiving, which is a this is, I think, where the movie really went to a place where I was like, this is just an incredibly well-written movie, I think. Sam gets hammered and goes off to bed the first night. No surprise, but he's kind of got it a little bit under control because he's stumbling drunk when he goes to bed, but he's not waking up in fucking Central Park, right? And he does go to bed early and stop drinking. Anyway, there's this awesome scene where he sees a ghostly, mud-covered, nude Anna, stalking him into the bedroom, from the outside window and then into the bedroom, and then sucking his blood. I thought at first from his dick, but I think it was more his kind of pelvic area. Yeah. And then she takes off and he doesn't know how she got there and all this stuff. He wakes up, he's got bite marks on his stomach. He's getting pretty freaked out. We have this little moment where you understand that he and Ray had a history before Nick and Ray were together, assumedly. There's this whole moment where he's again, you're like, is he going to get out of it? Because he goes out and has a swim in the ocean with Nick. It's a pretty cool shot, but you still see he's not feeling well. He's feeling very drained. Obviously that was a little dual meaning there, but he is feeling physically drained. Then some other friends show up. And they have this whole Thanksgiving situation, Friendsgiving, we'll call it. Sam can overhear them talking about him, but we don't know if he's hearing it for sure or if he's just kind of paranoid. But they are definitely worried about his health, and they kind of frame it as oh wait, is he becoming a vampire? Does he have fucking heightened senses now? Is that how he's hearing? So they're intermingling this paranoia with vampire tropes. And Anna shows up, and Anna is interacting with everyone during this dinner. So this is now got you on this other description of wait, does Anna exist in some capacity? Does she not? We're not really sure, because we're of course seeing everything from Sam's perspective, and he is an unreliable narrator at this point. So they're drinking. Everyone's getting after it pretty hard. And he goes in the bathroom and barfs. He's hearing a lot of voices in his head. Then this was the most interesting part for me. They kind of like go outside, like Ray goes outside. She's like tending to horses or something. Anna goes out and has a talk with Ray. And I would like to go back and watch this to see who all Anna talks to, because it does feel like primarily she's only talking to Ray.
Yeah.
And she actually comes on to Ray, like, and Ray for a moment, like, kind of gives in, and they have like a little makeout session. But then Ray's like, nah, dog, I can't do this, and bails. So you get this. I mean, what I took from that is Ray shares the same propensity for how do I put it?
I would say she shares the same vulnerability.
Vulnerability is a better way of putting it. Yeah, I was going to say propensity for like destructive alcoholism.
Yeah.
Or depression or both, right? We don't know.
I think it's
but
more
vulnerability
about
is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it's more about how like she has the vulnerability at that moment because she's by herself. She's, secluded herself but they're staying at her grandma's Hamptons house. She's wearing her grandma's clothes, and her grandma had just died is why a lot of this is happening. So they're showing us that she is vulnerable to go down the same road as Sam. And like which is like why it's so important when her and Anna are talking at the fence and Anna brings up that Sam used to get drunk and hit her. And like at no point have we seen Sam divulge that to Anna. And how would Anna know that? Yeah,
I took that as because she uses a unique phrase like bang you around. And at first I was like, do we mean like in a domestic violence sense, or do we mean like get drunk and have drunk sloppy fucks?
Yeah. Now I think she meant just smack her around. Like
really?
He used to smack. Yeah, I think he used to get drunk and smack her around is what it was.
Okay.
And that's why like they're not together.
Yeah.
So they have all this flirtiness, which is also the other thing of like why Anna can show up to parties. Like she can show up to Thanksgiving and she can show up to the Halloween party and interact with everybody because at that point, everybody's flirting with alcoholism. Sure. Everybody's getting super drunk and they're flirting with alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because they're binge drinking.
Right.
And it's whether or not you keep doing that is what becomes the habit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the people who
I said the name of the movie.
Oh, you said the thing. He said the name. But yeah, it's also like I'm curious, like whether the intention, and you could take it this way, like I guess it's all about how you perceive it. But I wonder if there's some intention around like Anna being the ability to see and interact with Anna being like the genetic precursors, you know what I mean? Required for substance addiction, because we know some people, joke about, I forget. John Mulaney does a line about it. Or I've heard other people, what's the other freaking comedian that's like, the white trash looking kid with the Theo Vaughn, does the joke about like, I don't have he says something about, I'm paraphrasing, he can't drink, not because he can't stop drinking, but as soon as he drinks, he's going to buy Coke. You know what I mean? That's so like that thing that it can't, that's whether it's genetic, whether it's, something we don't fully understand as a species, that Sam refers to as the gloom or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what Anna kind of is a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Or the ability to see Anna.
Right. Anna is the embodiment of that. And, like if this film was made today, it wouldn't necessarily be alcoholism. It would be heroin addiction or fentanyl use. And like, that's the one thing I like about all the little sores that keep showing up on Sam. Like, the bites on his lips and the bites on his stomach and shit like that. Like, just like as a person gets sicker, Their immune system can't heal the little things that tear them apart. And so it's just like, it's just a great little detail he has in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've already been talking about this movie too long, and I have a lot more to talk about, so I'm going to kind of move a little quicker here. But
Sure.
they end up driving back, and you know, there's also a lot of themes of friendship and support versus enablement in this, and like, you know, how there are some like pivotal points in your either addiction or road to recovery where if you don't have support from the right people, or maybe you have support from the wrong people, it can make all the difference in which direction you go. So there's a lot of story around Nick. And I will say Nick plays an annoying character, this very theatrical, eccentric character, but also Nick as a performer, the guy who plays Nick is not good.
Yeah.
He's pretty tough to watch at times, but anyway, you know, I won't get too far into that, but that's a really great subplot as well. He ends up going and like he's going to go hang out with Liza. So he has that moment, and you think that maybe he and Liza are going to get back together, but then Anna steps in the last minute and kind of ruins that reuniting potential element of support that he could have used, because we know Anna at least has the wherewithal at this point in time to like to stay away from the addiction or insulate herself in some way. Anna's like all up in his dreams that night. You know, he's running naked down the street, you know, to this dock, which I couldn't help but think like this was probably a pretty wild scene to shoot because he was just naked in the street. You know, this was a guerrilla shoot type situation. They go onto the boat, and literally now we start to see coffins, and Anna has goddamn Dracula teeth, and we find Lenny is dead on the boat, and now you're kind of coming to terms with the fact that Lenny is dead. You know, Lenny probably died in a fucking ditch somewhere, or you know, fell into the river and fucking drowned. You know, which is unfortunate reality of people who get blacked out drunk, and you know, it just happens, right? The next morning is like sunny. And it's like, it seems to be the first sunny morning that he's woken up, and Nick is there at his apartment. And this is the scene I meant, where it was like, for a second, I don't know. I might be reading too much into it, but he kind of wakes up like maybe like last night was a potential opportunity for a wake up call for him. And he wakes up in the morning and it's sunny, and you're kind of like, he's seeing a little bit of a glimmer of hope. But Nick, in thinking that he's helping his friend, shows up and does more harm than good. Not only because he literally is like, hey, let's have a beer at 10 in the morning. Who knows what time it is, but also Nick treats Sam's problem like his problem, or like how he would treat it. And Sam's at a different point. And then eventually, instead of getting Sam help, he basically says like, he takes Sam's request to just leave him alone, and it's not malicious. He thinks he's doing the right thing for his friend, but he's obviously not. So it's pretty heartbreaking. Yeah,
because like I already said, like Nick should stop drinking. Like Nick drinks too much. So like when Sam comes to him with problem, you know, Nick doesn't even register it because he just thinks, oh yeah, Sam's on the same level as I am. Sam can take it. Sam can drink more. Sam can, you know, do all this stuff. You know, if Sam has a problem, then I have a problem, and I don't have a problem, so Sam doesn't have a problem. And then it all just, you know, it all just gets washed away that way, to the point that, like you said, now Sam is just left alone, and like nobody believes him. I do not love this scene though, because as you already mentioned, like the Nick character, like he's annoying, but the actor is really bad. But it wasn't until this scene, like every other scene, I thought he was just being an annoying theatrical kid. Yeah. But like in this scene, when he has to get serious, he doesn't get serious, and it just sucks. And I was like, oh, this dude's just like a bad actor. Damn it.
He is. He's bad. He's a very bad actor. which is really one of the only detractors from the movie overall. But yeah, Nick's tough. And this is a big scene. The cat dies, his cat, which we haven't talked about, but they're like, hey, did he kill the cat? Did he let something come in the window and kill the cat? We're not really sure, but things are falling apart pretty fast. He ends up going to Liza's apartment, like breaking in, finding Liza is dead on the floor, with like blood everywhere. But I don't think Liza is actually dead. I think it's just like the fact that he couldn't get in, like their relationship's over. I think is him coming to terms with that was really what that represented. And the neighbor basically like talking about him like he's a criminal. Great music cue though, with the piano and the strings, like when he comes in, like it was just like really impactful music cue, I thought there too. He ends up losing it at this point. He goes to the store, he buys garlic, a bunch of other stuff. He's hearing voices. He ends up going to his father's house, like smearing garlic everywhere and around all the doors and windows, like finds a cross necklace. He's just, he's in dire straits at this point. I don't know if he actually goes and gets all this stuff. I get the feeling he did, but it's just one of those things somebody in deep in the throes of addiction does. And we're seeing how it makes sense in his head. But for anyone on the outside, you're like, this is just something somebody's brain's fucked is doing.
Right.
So he's like eating juice he's eating raw meat or licking juice because he thinks it's blood, because he thinks he's turned into a vampire. Nick shows up, but it's Anna posing as Nick. And this is how Anna gets back in. And this is how he kind of takes his final dive, if you will. Not literally. He literally does that in a minute. But they have this like scuffle, and she gets the best of him. And even when he locks himself in the bathroom, but then she is like taunting him, and he just can't get away from her at this point. He's in too deep. She's pretending to have like a phone conversation about him. And, like I said, her fangs are fully out at this point. She like basically like rapes him, I guess. So at this point, he's feeling like he cannot get away from and is entirely overpowered by his addiction. He eventually goes back and like locks himself in his father's room with all his father's stuff, which we see earlier where he was trying to sort through his father's stuff. And this is really like the, ground zero for his depression, and the addiction has followed him there, obviously. So eventually Nick and Ray find him at his dad's place. I think he calls him, leaves him a message or something, but Anna like creeps in through the window and eventually is like trying to push him out the window. She's kind of holding him dangling there. Nick eventually like breaks down the door and gets in the room, but it's just as Sam falls from, I don't know, like say like a quite high up 6th to 8th floor window, it seems like, and falls to his death. You look down, you see Anna and Sam both dead on the street. And then they do this really great shot where they kind of shift the perspective towards Ray and Nick. You see Nick run down, and then they see it's only Sam on the street. So not surprising, but I thought pretty well done and pretty well shot. And it's just like, this is why. And then you get that one more shot of the ferry. So it's almost like, hey, there's the disease is moving on kind of thing or whatever. So the thing that's most impressive about this, not only was it a very affecting movie, it kind of sticks with you. I found myself like waking up in the morning thinking about it. Larry Fessen's performance, despite the shortcomings of some of the other performances, is so fucking good. It's so well written. It's so well shot. And if this movie was exponentially more budget, you wouldn't be surprised. Like, it's really that well thought out. And so that's why I think it's probably a darling of film school kids, is because they want to think that they can do this, Exactly. But they're not Larry Fessenden, so they can't. But it feels like somebody who has some faith in their abilities thinks I could get to this place, Yeah.
Yeah. If they increase the budget of it, it actually would hurt the film.
I think you're right. Yeah.
By the fact that it is shot with so much guerrilla stuff, and so much of it is like they go to that, Little Italy days type deal that they had going on, where they're just shooting sausages and stuff, and they're shooting a Ferris wheel. That's a little fun.
Shooting with the camera. For some reason, I imagine like a pellet gun, like one of the like carny games. You're just shooting. You get to keep any sausages you shoot.
Hey, if you can break the link, you get all the sausages. But no, so like it has so many good low budget quality moments, and like you're saying, it harkens back to Frank Henenlotter movies, and even another movie I was thinking about, like almost picked for this, The Driller Killer is like another movie that just movie. Has a lot of those elements of like, we have a bunch of arty people doing arty stuff, and then we also have just like kind of these weird, probably shot illegally film, on the street stuff. So like it is just a testament to like Fessenden did put a lot of the time into just thinking about like what is this analogy? What is this analogy that I'm putting out there, and goes through all of the different ways. Because he makes sure that he includes all the ways that you lose friends and family. And then the inclusion of the scene with Ray is incredibly important to it all. Yeah. Because it just shows like, Anna can be rebuked. Like she can be pushed away. So you can combat her. And then that's what leads us to know like, it truly is like, it's strong alcoholism. It's not silly alcoholism, which comes up in a lot of films. Sure.
Yeah, no, this is serious, life-threatening alcoholism. Yeah. So I will. I can see somebody like poo-pooing this movie for being very film schooly. But that's just because so many people went and tried to copy it. Undoubtedly, I can imagine in 1995, this movie. And I loved this movie, and it was really an impressive movie to me. And like, I will watch this movie more. This was a really impressive movie to me. I really, really enjoyed it, despite that it's not a feel good movie. But I imagine in 1995, especially if you were a film, cinephile film student, this would have blown your fucking tits off.
Yeah, it's one of those things coming out in the mid to early 90s like this. It is up against a lot of other just kind of indie darling stuff. Like I think, let's see, Clerks was 93. El Mariachi, I believe, is 95. So it's hitting the pocket. I believe this one kind of gets buried underneath everything that like Kevin Smith, Tarantino, Rodriguez were doing. This one kind of gets buried because this one it's so much slower, and it is so much more focused on, it is like a very personal piece. I don't know how personal this is to Larry Fesseden's actual life, but it's much more of like a character study rather than being a film that does. I mean, it is a film that does more than it budget, kind of portrays, but not in the way that like Clerks or El Mariachi does. El Mariachi was shot for what, $5,000, and it's this action squib film that like nobody expected to ever be able to be done. So like like that's what people were enamored with in the 90s. They wanted to see what you could do with nothing.
Yeah. This is purely on the merits of the filmmaking prowess of a couple of people, primarily one person. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's one of those films. It's mostly on Larry's shoulders, but when you watch the credits, like he makes sure he credits everybody. Like it doesn't matter how small their role was.
Yeah, it's like thanking his dad for letting him use his apartment or something.
Right. Yeah, he credits everybody
Hal
who
Fessenden.
owns. Hal Fessenden for using the apartment. He credits everybody who like owned the Yankee Ferry, and they let him use it. And he credits everybody who's in the party scenes, everybody who's in the cafe scenes. Doesn't matter how small their role was. And like that's a true like indie filmmaker type thing to do. Like a good indie filmmaker will just always just credit everybody, because without them, your film doesn't look as good. But like his film and my film both really excel at gathering up a bunch of fucking people that probably didn't get paid.
Yeah, it is. You are making a film on the back of a lot of favors.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, let's get into the next movie here. Oh, go ahead.
Before we move on, I just had one more thing I wanted to bring up, and it's it's a weird thing, but it was going through my mind watching this movie a lot. Have you ever seen the film The Comedy from 2012? It had it starred Tim Heidecker, and Eric Wareheim's also in it.
Yes, I have seen this.
Okay.
When you said that, when you said The Comedy, I heard The Comedian, and then you said 2012, and I was like, wait, what are we talking about? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I couldn't stop thinking about The Comedy, because in that film, Tim Heidecker plays like a social vampire who lives on a boat in New York City, and he basically is cosplaying Larry Fessenden in this movie, through the entire thing. Like he's living this gifted, La Boheme lifestyle. But he doesn't add anything to the world, and he's living off his dead dad's money, who had just died. And so like there's so many interesting weird ties between Habit and The Comedy. And like I'm not going to get too far deep into it, but I just think like if you want something really weird and uncomfortable that you also want to compare to Habit, watch that film, because it's just such a weird like twist of like being a social vampire who just like adds nothing, and is just pretending to be like this hipster, but like really he just comes from money, and like it adds nothing to the world and drains everybody around him. It's an uncomfortable film, but check it out.
I mean, honestly, Tim Heidecker, I mean, you could argue, I'm probably drawing some tenuous connections here, is a bit the Larry Fessenden of comedy a little bit too, where he's done some like bigger, he's played some bigger budget roles. Like he I don't know if you've seen any of his more recent stand up, which is like incredibly nauseatingly on purpose meta. Like he's doing this hack comedy impression.
Yeah.
But he's also doing a ton of winks and nods to the crowd about like, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But do you know how many layers of the onion I'm peeling back? Because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I could see why you would, and Tim and Eric were that to in a different level, like to a different degree. With like they were the, I would argue even they were kind of the pioneers of kind of like cringe comedy a little bit too. And just like this weird bizarro shit that has devolved into fucking brain rot internet stuff, like the fucking skibbity toilet shit. Like that is, you'd be crazy to say like Tim and Eric don't have something to do with like that insane brain rot shit that you see on the internet.
I mean,
now.
they surely have contributed for better or worse in that way.
Yeah. But like I feel like Tim Heidecker especially is a little bit the art house comedian of that like time frame a little bit too. So I wouldn't be surprised to learn that there was some influence there. But all right.
Continued in part 2.